How's it going, guys? Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Phil Talk Sports. Today is June 21st, 2019, the day after my birthday. I am 27 years old now, and I'm getting old. I don't know if I feel old, but apparently I'm getting old. So anyway, my guest today on this episode is Sean Kramer. Him, along with his brother Craig, make up the JagsCast podcast. It's a podcast based around the Jacksonville Jaguars and everything NFL. And in the off-season here, during baseball season, they have a similar show called the MetsCast, similar situation. Talk about New York Mets and baseball as a whole. So I talked to him about his podcast. We dive into baseball a little bit, the situation going on with the Tampa Bay Rays, about how they might relocate. We talked about the Stanley Cup, NBA Finals, and the newest member of Twitter that's causing a stir. So hope you guys enjoy this conversation, because I know I did having it. All right, we're here now with Sean Kramer, one half of the JagsCast podcast. It's something you do during football season. It has been football season for a while. What have you been doing since?
Well, hello to everybody. I've actually, part of the JagsCast is Craig, and we started up a podcast about baseball with the Mets, because Craig's a Mets fan, so we've been talking a lot of Mets baseball with the Mets cast. It's kind of depressing, honestly, because the Mets aren't very good.
I was going to say, that can't be too much fun right now.
No, but it makes for interesting conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure at least you talk about other teams. Where you yourself are a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
So
yeah, after we talk about the Mets, then we go through all of baseball and talk about the things happening around the sport.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you kind of do that with your Jagscast. It'll be Jaguars first, and then because I've been on a few times, and then we just talk other things.
Yeah.
In football.
Yeah, and then once fall comes and football season starts, then we'll transition back to JagsCast.
Cool. Yeah, look forward to that for sure.
Yeah.
I saw you post one recently. The name of it caught my eye. It was "If Bat Flips Could Talk."
Oh, yeah.
Where did that come from? What was that about?
Well, that was Craig's idea.
Uh-huh.
He comes up with the names for the episodes, where we just first like every episode we talk about the Mets and then the Yankees or something like that. But then we get in these ridiculous conversations about stuff, and me and Craig were having a conversation about bat flips and how ridiculous some of them are compared to the Jose Bautista bat flip from the playoffs a few years ago. Mm-hmm. With that being the
like the measuring stick.
The measuring stick, yeah, for ridiculous bat flips.
I mean, me and you've talked about this before. You're not a bat flip guy.
No.
I don't mind it. I'm not saying every home run deserves a bat flip, but there are times where I'd be disappointed if there wasn't a bat flip, you know?
Yeah, like I said, I guess I'm more old school in that sense, but I get it.
Yeah.
Especially, emotions run high during a game and everything like that, but...
And I think in the past, baseball's had issues letting guys show personality.
Yeah.
And I think that's a small way that they could let that happen, you know?
Yeah. No, it's one of those things where it's like, you just have to let the game police itself, where certain things will happen, and if guys want to retaliate, they will. If not, well, then they don't. So... But it is what it is. It's, if that's how you express yourself, then that's fine. It's just not my cup of tea, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I understand them not wanting, like, bench-clearing brawls every week, but, I don't think there's been one this year, and nothing major has come from it, right?
No, nothing big this year. And bat flips really are becoming more of the norm in baseball.
I think so, too, yeah. Like, before, if there was one, it'd be, like, a week's discussion on... what should happen or whatever, and now it's just thrown in there now.
Yeah. So I don't think bat flips are becoming more and more not as relevant as they used to be, as far as, oh, look what he did. He showed up the pitcher.
Yeah, they're not as taboo as they once were. So, continuing with baseball, you're a Yankee fan, obviously. One of the better known players is, of course, Aaron Judge, and the last video I saw on him is he was terrorizing pitchers in the minor leagues right now.
Yeah, he's been out for a good while now, but he's doing a rehab stint in the minor leagues, and he's coming back this week, and he should be 100% healthy to come back to the Yankees.
But could you imagine being that minor league pitcher that, because you don't start it, I think your gaps between starts are probably even more in the minors, because there's more guys that are trying to get work to.
Yeah.
And you're finally, it's your time to start, and you got to play Aaron Judge. Not at 100%, mind you, but he's still Aaron Judge.
Yeah. No, that's really not fair.
No.
Especially for a minor league pitcher, and you have to face one of the most feared power hitters in baseball.
Right, but to be fair though, because I saw the clip of him like going yard on this poor minor league guy.
Yeah.
But the game before, he went like 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts.
Yeah.
In a minor league game. So that guy, he could retire right now, or you should at least bring that guy up immediately.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, as a minor league player, you always got to feel good about yourself whenever you're facing major league talent and you get them out.
Yeah, I had an interesting thing that's talking about rehab stints down in Daytona, working for the Tortugas. We had a rehab stint for Scooter Gennett of the Reds this past week. So it definitely added a little more. It's a long season. Games kind of get monotonous. It definitely gave a 3-game homestand that would have just kind of been there. Pretty exciting to get anytime a major leaguer on your team or when the opposing team comes to town. It adds to it in the minor leagues.
Oh, definitely, especially if you don't live near a major league baseball team. And you're near a minor league team, that having the ability to watch a major league player is pretty cool. Because those guys don't come around very often, and when they do, it's fascinating to see, especially get to watch them dominate against the minor league talent.
And in rare cases, see them struggle against minor league talent. Like I remember last year working with the Tortugas, granted the Marlins aren't that good, and I don't recall this guy's name, but Marlins pitcher had a rehab stint against Daytona, and he got roughed up. He only lasted like 4 innings.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty, that was cool seeing, a starting, MLB pitcher get roughed up by our batting order.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Have you ever been to, like, a game with a major league player?
No, I never got to. The one time I was going to, it was the Tampa Yankees were actually playing the Daytona Cubs at the time, and Andy Pettitte was actually supposed to make a rehab start for the Tampa Yankees. And I was going to go to that game, but it got rained out, and I was so mad.
Oh, that's right.
I was really mad about that.
I think the only other time back in the Daytona Cubs days, they were playing the St. Lucie Mets, and Angel Pagan was rehabbing there, which I had no idea till I got there.
Yeah.
So that was the only other time as a fan that I've seen that. So
yeah. And I remember Angel Pagan. He was a really good center fielder.
Yeah. So anyway, what else going on in baseball? Obviously, Aaron Judge has been out for a while. I assume the Yankees have been missing him.
Well, actually, to be honest, not really.
Yeah.
Since the Yankees, they got a whole bunch of injuries, especially at the start of the season, and you would think that would have killed us early on, but it really, after the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, we got back to 500 after being down. We have taken off, and we've been one of the better teams in baseball since getting all the injuries.
I mean, that's one of the positives of it being such a long season is if you struggle even for a long period of time to start the year, you trip out of the blocks, you have time to recover.
Yeah. Yeah, but really the Yankees have really taken off and have been one of the better teams in the first half of the season this year, despite the numerous injuries to all the big guys.
So were they leading their division right now?
Yeah, we're in first place over the Rays by I think 4 games. I'm off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but we just swept the Rays in a series this past week. And so the Yankees have been playing fantastic.
But speaking of the Rays, they are one of the more surprising stories this year. Being they had the best 62 game start of their franchise, and they can't sell a goddamn ticket.
That's a shame.
I even saw a thing. They did $5. They did $5 tickets one day, and they still only got 1,000, maybe 2,000 people.
It is a shame what's going on in Tampa right now. Because the Rays, they are. I mean, I don't like them because they're in division rivals for us.
But I don't think you hate them.
No, but they are one of the better run franchises in baseball from a team standpoint, as far as scouting
and the front office and everything,
the farm system and everything. They do nothing but bring up guys who do nothing but come up and win for the most part. And the stadium is always empty. It's a shame. I don't know why the people don't show up. I mean, there's reasons why.
What do you think they are?
One,
because you tend to, being a Yankee fan, live in Florida, you go about once a year, sometimes
at
more.
Least,
yeah. So you're down there pretty regularly.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem is the location of the stadium in St. Petersburg is separate from Tampa because it's an extra 20 miles down the highway from Tampa. Because you have to go over that big long bridge when you're going
7 Mile Bridge,
the 7 Mile Bridge down Tampa. Then you have to go all the way through town. There's a ton of traffic especially when games start at 7 o'clock and you're trying to go through there at around 5. After
People
the
getting
rush
off
hour.
work,
It's a real pain to get to the stadium, and it's not in the greatest part of town, I guess.
I feel like most stadiums that's the case, though. I don't know if I can put it to that.
It's just, for me, the biggest part is the location, because it is such a pain to get to. Now, if I lived in Tampa, it wouldn't be so bad, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
Because then it's like maybe a 45-minute drive, but just overall, though, like if it was like where the Bucks played, I think they'd sell a whole lot more stadium.
Yeah.
Because the Bucks play, on the mainland of Tampa.
Sure.
And it's not that hard to get to. Once you get to the exit, then you're right there. With having to go all the way down to St. Petersburg and having to make that extra trek, it adds a whole lot of frustration trying to get to the stadium.
And the stadium itself isn't in the best shape, right? Because there's been talk about, building at Ybor City, which the renders for that looks great, but if they're not going to sell it out, the taxpayers aren't going to shell out to build that place.
Yeah. One thing the stadium has going for it is that it's a domed roof, which in Florida you definitely need that with the heat and the humidity.
Yeah.
But the inside of the stadium is so bland looking, it looks like you're playing in a parking garage.
Yeah.
Like they could use like a fresh coat of paint would change a lot in there.
I mean, so with the dome, some people like love or hate the dome though. Like just the fact that it's like I think for Florida, obviously, like you said, it's perfect. It eliminates a lot of issues.
Yeah.
But the dome itself, not everyone's in love with that, I feel.
No, I get that. I think one problem with the dome is that when you have really high pop-ups or someone hits the ball super high, it does tend to hit the roof or the catwalks. And then you have the issues of, is that a fair ball or a foul ball? And it's kind of hard to tell sometimes because the camera angles aren't always perfectly aimed at the roof. That causes some issues.
So right now, when it hits the roof, what do they call that? Like when it's obvious that it hits the roof.
It's weird. Like in Tampa, it has like this slanted roof, and there's like a couple, like 2 or 3 different catwalks that go around the top of the roof, and some of them have foul pole lines.
Okay.
So that if it hits on this side, it's fair, and if that's on the other side, it's foul.
It seems kind of bush league for a major league team, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I get it because like one technically is in the center of the field, so that would be a fair ball. But that's one thing. It's not a huge issue, but it does tend to come up. It's just part of the reason why people don't like domes.
Yeah.
I think a retractable roof would probably be better.
Yeah.
One thing I think it helps against is definitely weather delays.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Especially in Florida, you could be a beautiful sunshiny day, and then in 20 minutes, Hurricane Katrina can roll through, and then 20 minutes later, then you have, a sunny day again.
And then it's twice as hot because it just rained and all that. And so, like with the Marlins Stadium, their new one, that's not a dome, right?
It's a retractable roof.
See, and so that's the best of both worlds.
Yes. It's just, I think the biggest issue is the location, and second, a lot of baseball, what's the word I'm looking for? Purists, I guess, don't like the roof.
But they probably see it as kind of gimmicky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, and I guess another thing is that in Tampa, especially in just the state of Florida in general, there's a lot of Northerners that move down here, or snowbirds that come down here for months at a time, that aren't fans of the Rays, I guess.
Right.
They're more fans of the Yankees and the Red Sox and other teams.
So they'll go to those games.
Yeah, those games tend to do well with attendance, but not so much against, like, say, the Minnesota Twins or the Houston Astros or other teams that...
and even, like, other teams, like, when they play the Blue Jays, even, it's a division game, and it doesn't,
No.
Do you think, because we hear about this every once in a while, do you think the Rays could prosper in Orlando?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I think Orlando would definitely, with the success of the Magic and their attendance that the Magic had, I think they could definitely do well with a baseball team. Because despite the Magic not being so good in recent years,
the attendance has still been decent.
The attendance is always good. And two, there's nowhere in Orlando that's really hard to get to unless they put the stadium next to Disney World.
Which at that point you're almost in Kissimmee.
Yeah. So I think pretty much almost anywhere in in Orlando is not that hard to get to. And so with a stadium in Orlando, I would go to a whole lot more games.
Right.
Because for us, Tampa is a 3-hour drive, whereas Orlando's
an hour.
An hour.
Right. So I think that Orlando overall could do it. I mean, the soccer team, Orlando City's done well. The Magic do well. Or UCF's attendance is up. Obviously, that has a lot to do with the success on the field.
Yeah.
But you heard that every once in a while. Oh, Rays looking at moving to Tampa, playing some games in Tampa, and now there's this story about them playing half their games, the later half of their games, in Montreal. What do you make of that?
It's very strange.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not something I've ever heard with a baseball team. Either the team stays in one city or they move completely. Now, from what I've heard recently over the past few years is rumblings of Montreal wanting to get a baseball team back since they lost the Expos.
Sure.
They've been really wanting to get baseball back in Montreal, and I think the major leagues would like to get another team in Canada next to the Blue Jays
Because they do pretty well, the Blue Jays,
for the
all
most
things
part.
considered. Yeah.
Especially when they're good, the people do show up.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know how they're gonna. If they put a team in Montreal, I don't know how they're going to sit there and split time between Tampa and Montreal. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, from what I read, they'd play the first half of to the All-Star break. Their home games would be in Tampa.
Yeah.
And then post All-Star break, their home games would be in Montreal. So they have basically the All-Star break to shift over.
It's very strange.
Yeah, I don't see that working out. And like you said, the Braves are one of the better organizations total.
Yeah.
And so if it was going to work organizationally, I think they would do it, but
Maybe.
I don't see it being a positive.
And it is very strange. You'd have two Canadian teams in the same division.
But, I mean, that makes sense because a lot of them are regionalized, right?
No, for the most part, yeah. It's just, I think if you were to relocate, if the Rays were to relocate to Montreal permanently, I think they'd have to do a little bit of team swapping in some of the divisions.
Mm-hmm.
Which, because it just doesn't make sense to have two Canadian teams in the same division, because the Montreal Expos used to be a National League team, but then they moved to Washington, D.C., became the Nationals.
Mm-hmm.
So, my theory is, and me and Craig have talked about this before, is that what we would do, if the Rays went to Montreal to become the Expos, we would switch two teams. We'd take the Montreal Expos, or the Montreal Rays if they kept that name, and we'd put them in the National League East. Then we take the Miami Marlins and put them in the American League East. And so that way you still have
your Florida team.
Yeah, there's still a Florida team, and you can rekindle some Montreal Expo rivalries from their old division. Mm-hmm. And where I think the Marlins would get a boost in attendance themselves, because there's a ton of Yankee fans and a ton of Red Sox fans in Miami.
Right.
And I think that would help them with some of their games.
Because they're better than they were, but they're still not particularly good attendance-wise or anything. Anyway.
Yeah, no, they're struggling just as bad as the Rays are, too. But they went through a ownership change recently with Jeter buying the team.
Sure.
And so he's kind of he's tearing it down to nothing to try to build it up to something.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think of their new logo?
The Marlins?
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's better than the second one, but not as good. They should have left it where it was.
The original was just fine.
It was perfect. I thought it was one of the better logos in baseball, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it looked like a major league logo.
Yes.
And then the when they changed their logo to the
rainbow M,
the rainbow cartoon looking thing, it wasn't that good. This one's a little better.
I think it's better.
It's not as good as the original.
But I feel like they didn't make a big enough deal about them changing it. I was sitting at home, I had the Fox Sports app up, and all the games that are on are there, and it was them versus the Red Sox or whoever, and I'm just like, what logo is that? And I remember texting you, I'm like, did you know that the Marlins changed their logo again? And you had no idea.
No.
So it was a very quiet change.
Yeah, no, it's weird. Every time a team changes their logo or something, they usually make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just even in any random team I know when they change their logo.
Mm-hmm. Real quick other question about logos, and this is a little late.
All right.
Indians not being allowed to use Chief Wahoo. I don't agree with that. I know that happened a couple years ago now, but and they still kind of do. They can't put it on their hat is the thing, and now they just have the ugly plain C, which looks dumb.
I know. This goes into a whole realm of political correctness, I guess, of this day and age. I liked it. It was the right amount of cartoony.
Yeah,
and it was just a happy, smiling face.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with it. I mean,
I think the Indians need if they can't use that, come up with a cooler C to use.
Just a plain Jersey
Times New Roman C is on it.
No, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. I wish they had kept it the way they were, but that's just...
And, like, they're not allowed to sell merchandise with it in the stadium, but people still make it otherwise, and it's still all over their ballpark. But, it's very, very strange, right?
That's a shame. The Indians, they're not like the Chicago Cubs level of cursed, but they have not had a lot of good luck in the history of their of the team,
right?
And which this is just like another thing that I'm just not a fan of. And now the Indians have had good teams recently.
I feel like almost every year there's a point where you turn on the TV and it's like, oh, the Indians have the best team in baseball?
Yeah.
Like, it happens every year. It's just a matter of what time of year it happens, you know?
And when they fall apart.
Exactly. So let's shift from baseball, that's baseball talk for you, to hockey, which just ended. The Stanley Cup ended a couple days ago, and your St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup. How do you feel?
Well, as a lifelong Blues fan, I gotta say it's a dream come true.
Yeah, I mean, you're only half kidding because while neither of us are huge hockey people, if you casually watch a sport, you still find a team that you're like, this is who if I'm gonna watch, this is who I'm gonna watch. And for many years for you, that has been the Blues.
Yeah, no, and I am not a hockey guy at all. I try to get into it.
I try every year.
It's hard to keep up with when the games are on and everything.
Well, it's kind of like baseball. There's so many of them.
Yeah,
it's almost like a second,
Yeah, so I've never been fully committed to watching hockey, but this year, especially since especially when playoffs come around, is when I really pay attention.
Playoff hockey is good no matter what.
Yes.
I do tend to watch that every time.
Yeah, because to me, the best part about playoff hockey is there's absolutely no flopping. Everyone goes as hard as they possibly can.
Right.
And they're in the playoffs. And it just made it even better that the Blues beat the Boston Bruins.
So I tweeted about it. I can watch Boston teams lose championship games all damn day.
Yeah.
Yeah. That definitely and they did it like when they lost Game 6 in St. Louis. Yeah. I'm like, that's it. That was not only did they lose, they got dog walked. Like I think it was 5-1, something like that. I think it's 6-2 even. And you're like, now they're going back to Boston. Boston, like they're running out of room in the Raptors. It's been a couple years. I think 11 was the last time they won it.
Yeah.
But it's like they lost all opportunity to do this, and then they came back and crushed them in Boston.
I was not expecting that.
No, we were watching that one together, and
that was a good time.
They scored a quick one early, and then they scored. I think the big momentum shift was when they got that second one right at the end of the first period.
Yeah,
because I think Boston was like, all right, we're gonna skate this one out, we're gonna regroup in the second period, and then they snuck one more in there, and then the floodgates kind of opened after that.
Yeah, and I was really worried about Game 7 because I wasn't able to catch every single game of the Stanley Cup, but I did, I watched 3 games. The 3 games I watched, the Bruins crushed the Blues. And I was like, dang it.
Because you were even wondering if you should watch Game 7.
Yeah, because I would casually check my phone because I was, doing something or out somewhere I wasn't near a TV, and I'd be like, oh, the Blues are beating the Bruins, cool. And then I watched, I think it was Game 1, I forget exactly which games. Whatever games the Bruins won was the ones I was watching, and they just got killed in those games.
And then you watch Game 7, and that happens, and the Kramer curse was shattered right there. Yep. So, do you plan to buy any St. Louis Stanley Cup merch?
I think I'll pick up a T-shirt.
T-shirt, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to overdo it.
I mean, you're rocking your AFC South, the Jaguar championship shirt, so you're a big shirt. I don't mind getting shirt. Like, obviously, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I bought everything.
Yeah.
But casually, like, when UCS been winning their conference every year, I buy the hats.
Yeah.
Because, like, the shirts end up all looking the same, and they're almost always black, and I don't wear black in Florida all that often.
Yeah.
So I tend to buy the championship hats is my thing.
Yeah.
But I know you're not a huge hat guy, so.
Yeah. No, I think I'll just pick up a single shirt.
There you go. That's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, congrats to you and the Blues there.
First ever Stanley Cup.
Yep, exactly. And the last time they were in it was in the 70s against Boston. So they got to get a little payback on that.
Yeah. Which, fun fact about the Blues, when they were an expansion team back in the late 60s, they went to, I think, the Stanley Cup their first 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm. And I think they went to 4 or 5 total.
Total, yeah.
So they're like the Minnesota Vikings of hockey there for a while.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, no, good for them. It's always nice to see a new team that's never won a championship in their league win one.
Yeah, for the first time.
And we've gotten that twice this year because about a week later, Toronto Raptors beat Golden State Warriors, and I don't hate the Warriors like most people do, but it was really cool to see Toronto win that thing.
Yeah, no, it was definitely refreshing, especially to see a first-time team win.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes to show how good Kawhi Leonard is.
Kawhi Leonard is very good. That team, top to bottom, very deep team. They might only have I think it always comes down to right now a lot of people want these super teams. They want 3 or 4 stars. Mm-hmm. I still think there's something to be said about having 2 stars. Like when we were growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, the model was like a Batman and Robin, and then you have a really deep bench, and that was how you won. And I still think there's something to be said about that model, going forward.
Yeah, no, it's definitely with basketball is definitely over the course of its history has been like a 2-man wrecking crew basically, with Jordan and Pippen, Kobe and Shaq. Who's the other one? Wade and Shaq.
Yeah.
And teams like that.
Well, if it's me moving forward, if I have 2 stars and I have the money for a third, instead of getting that third star, go out and get 3 to 4 veteran players. They don't have to be. Well, you don't necessarily need a Durant, but you can go get a J.J. Redick, Jimmy Butler, and Serge Ibaka. You go out and get these guys that nothing. They've either been to the playoffs or whatever. Nothing phases them. They're going to do their job every time.
Yeah.
And I did feel a little bad for the Warriors, not because they lost, because they've had plenty of success, but they were. I've never seen a team fall apart physically. Not like in the game. In the game, they played as hard as they could. So many injuries. And next year, it's literally going to be like Steph and Draymond Green.
Yeah.
Even if Durant resigns, because he's out for a whole year. They've already announced it.
Yeah.
Clay's going to be out for at least a half a year.
Mm-hmm.
The Warriors definitely have to regroup some. And if they get these guys in the contract, they're only going to have so much money to bring. Boogie's probably gone. He played well enough that he'll get a max from some other team.
Yeah.
I still see him as a Laker because he's not going to require as much money as others.
No.
So I could see that happening. But do you think the dynasty with the Warriors is completely over? Next year, I think is a wash. I don't. They'll make the playoffs, no doubt.
Yeah.
They'll probably make the Western Conference Finals, no doubt. But I don't know. I don't count next year. But 2021 and forward, do you think the Warriors win another title ever?
They could. This is all going to depend now on how good Steph Curry is on his own and how dominant Draymond Green can be, playing defense.
Yeah.
Basically.
Because I look at this almost like Penny and Shaq after Shaq left. Penny was still very good for a couple of years, but being the only guy, he really banged himself up trying to do that. Yeah. And I think that could easily happen to Steph because he's much smaller than Penny was. You know?
Yeah. And Steph, I don't know if he's the type of player that can just straight up carry a team the way a Durant could or a LeBron James, someone like that. He's more of a he's a superstar, no doubt about it. Sure. But he definitely he definitely plays a whole lot better with other guys around him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great pure shooter, but he runs great without the ball. But because of that, you need someone else that can command the attention while you make the move without the ball.
Yeah, which. It's funny, the way the Warriors are built, they did have that 2-player system, but all their other starters though they had superstars other than just the 2 guys.
Yeah.
And then when they went out and got Durant and everything and became the super team, they just became that much better.
See, that's why a lot of people hate the Warriors. I respect the hell out of the Warriors because they were so good. That they built the old-fashioned way with drafting and a couple small trades, Iguodala, things like that, a couple free agency pickups, and then still had the money to go sign Durant.
Yeah.
So I don't look at them as the way the Heat were or whatever. That they came together the right way, in my opinion. Which is why, I didn't mind them losing because they've had plenty of success, but the way they lost definitely was rough. It's the way they fell apart physically.
Oh yeah.
All right. So over the past year or two, I've become pretty Facebook used to be my social media platform of choice, and I've lately kind of gone over to Twitter a lot more. And you yourself are a pretty avid Twitter user, right?
For the most part.
Yeah, more so than Facebook, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So we recently had someone join the Twitter family. Yeah. He is a former Heisman, contender, winner, I
Trophy
believe, right?
winner, yes.
Heisman Trophy winner, and former Buffalo Bill, O.J. Simpson, joined Twitter over the week. And who saw that coming?
That was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, and obviously it is blown up. He has 772,000 followers already. He only follows 10 things, so we're going to break down what it is.
Okay.
The PGA Tour, because he's a big golfer.
Yep.
The NFL, the Buffalo Bills, Twitter support, which I don't know that he knows he doesn't have to follow that to get the support, but whatever. USC, obviously his alma mater.
Yeah.
The Heisman Trophy.
Okay.
His son, an attorney and a lawyer. I won't get into their names, but and then the Twitter verified account, which he doesn't have that little blue check mark yet.
Yeah.
And if you're Twitter, do you give it to him?
I think you kind of have to.
I think so too, because you need to really know what's him and what's not. There's already when you were trying to find it earlier, there's already a very prominent fake account.
That
you thought was the one for a little while.
Yeah, he has 50,000 subscribers on the fake one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're Twitter, I think you kind of have to verify him.
Yeah,
I know you don't want to, and you don't want to necessarily. I'm sure Twitter's not thrilled about him being on their platform, but it's nothing says he can't do it.
I was going to say, when you have a free social media platform, anybody can join, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, I gotta be honest.
And you could tell at first he didn't quite know how to use it, because his first couple tweets are videos of him talking.
Yeah.
So he's kind of using it more like a Snapchat almost.
Yeah.
There for a while, but someone might have helped him set it up, because he's got his profile picture, he's got his cover photo, which older people, when they make social media accounts, tend to not know about the cover photo.
Yeah.
You know, so that's there. It's a nice flashback picture of him in his Bills uniform.
Yeah. I kind of have a feeling that Twitter itself is doing everything they can to minimize how big he gets, because when I'm trying to search, I don't follow him on my Twitter, but I was trying to search for him, and it is very difficult for me to find.
And then you finally did, and it said you were blocked.
Yeah, and then it says it's account suspended, and we have the real I have his handle, the real OJ32, but it's not letting me.
And the fake one that we were talking about is the _ OJ Simpson 32. So very similar. You know, it's still a picture. You know, not like I think him and his wife is the other one, and the it's not like pictures you rip from Google. It's very personalized pictures.
Yeah.
And it's very funny though on the real one. His caption is just, "If you don't see it here, I didn't say it." So I don't know if he thinks this is good for himself to get out there more, and but it is very interesting to see him. And we definitely got a good laugh a minute ago, because we thought you were blocked for some reason, which probably isn't the case, because I think if he does anything, it's going to be he's on a shorter leash than most, so he might have tweeted a message to somebody and they suspended his account already once, but
possibly
Yeah,
I don't see. He's gonna have a very difficult time on social media.
Right now he's just talking about Buffalo Bills stuff. He's always been a big supporter of them, and he was actually the playoff game against the Jaguars that you went to. He was apparently there, which was crazy.
Because I think they showed him up on the video board or something.
Yeah, he was in a LaShawn McCoy jersey, which was neat.
Yeah, with I guess with some Bills tailgaters.
Mm-hmm. Could you imagine just hanging out with OJ?
Yeah, I just had to nudge and be like, "Come on,
just between us.
Just I won't tell anybody. I'm nobody.
Who's gonna believe me, right? I'm a drunk Bills fan, but we don't know that someone didn't do that.
Yeah,
we just
Yeah. Oh man,
but it's definitely if you can get into it. I don't know if it's because I'm already following him, because I paused for a second. I'm like, do I want to hitch to this wagon? And I'm like, you know what? This is going to be a fun follow. I had to give this a try.
Yeah.
So, like I said, nothing too crazy yet. The videos of him talking I haven't watched. They're not long. They're 2 minutes each or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them. But, we got it 6 days ago. He's only tweeted 6 times. And he has almost almost 1 million followers already. So he
wow.
said 772,000.
Yeah. If I can try and find him somehow or figure out a way to follow him, I definitely will. Just to watch this train wreck.
You should try, because you have an account for your podcast and you have a personal account, right?
Yeah.
So maybe try your other one. That might be worth it.
I'll give that one a shot. The personal account I'm not so much active on anymore. Pretty much my main account is the Jags Cast.
Right, so if you guys want to definitely give it a try, and the Mets Cast, all those episodes get posted to that page as well.
Yeah.
So definitely give that a listen if you guys like football and listening to people argue, because there's a lot of that on there between Kramer and his brother Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, so definitely good. I was really, this might sound mean, I was really hoping you were blocked, because that would have just been hilarious.
That would have been really funny.
I mean, you have a screenshot of him being blocked, right?
Yeah.
So
I took a screenshot of it.
So we'll definitely share that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, good luck catching OJ, because not a lot of people could on the field or off of it.
Yeah.
So real quick again, how do we get in touch with you on Twitter?
It's at JagsCast.
Right on. So
that's the way it sounds. That's spelled.
That's it right there. So everyone give that a listen, and Kramer, thanks for being here, and good luck following OJ.
All right, and that was Sean Kramer. I want to thank him again for coming on the show. Hope he can come on again soon. It's kind of difficult, though. We live pretty far away, but hopefully I can get him on here sooner rather than later. So before we go today, I'm going to give you guys a little extra content. About a week ago, I was a guest on the Two Birds and a Third podcast, which is hosted by Hank, who has been a guest on my show before, and his crew. They interview me about my show. We talk about a few other little things. And mostly it was the part I'm going to play for you guys is the U.S. women's national team dominating Thailand 13-0 in the World Cup. And we just all give our thoughts on that. And I thought it was a pretty good conversation. I wanted to throw it in at the end here. I want to thank those guys again for having me on. It was a lot of fun. There's 5 guys that do this show. And before I was going to be on it, I was like, wow, I've only done shows with, a guest, maybe 2 others, and people end up talking over each other and everything, so I didn't know how it was going to go, but with all 5 plus me, great. No one really talked over each other. Those guys really know what they're doing over there. Their show's a pretty finely tuned machine, and it was a lot of fun, and hopefully I'm on it again soon. So I wanted to give you guys just a couple clips from Two Birds and a Third when I was the guest on there, so enjoy.
Very good. So, Phil, please tell us what teams you are a fan of. Tell us why you are a fan of those teams, your one favorite sports moment, and what you do on your channel / podcast.
Yeah, no problem. So, like I said a minute ago, I've been listening to you guys for a long time. I'm glad we finally made it work that I can be on the show with you guys. But to make it short and sweet, every team from Orlando or Philadelphia basically is where I reside in my sports allegiances. I'm from Florida, Central Florida, born and raised. Basically, when it came down to football, there's no team in the Orlando area. Obviously, there's Tampa, but in any sport that has an Orlando team, Tampa is always the biggest rival, so it would have been hard to just turn around and root for a Tampa team. So really, just as a kid, the first sport, if you can call it that, I got into was pro wrestling. Always loved wrestling. I turned on the TV one day, I see a guy with a 20 on his chest, German suplex, a Washington Redskin. That guy turned out to be Brian Dawkins, and I've been an Eagles fan ever since.
Nice. Well, you did have an Orlando team for about 40 minutes, right?
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, that's
they are the first AAF champion, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to give it to them. I mean, what's funny is I planned to finally go to one of those games, and the plans fell through, and it would have been the only game that they ultimately lost. So I'm glad I didn't make it over to that one.
Nice. So talk about your one favorite sports moment and why it's your favorite sports moment. You can pick from any team that you support, or maybe even it's a team that you don't support.
I find it really hard to pick one. I think the number one, I'd be lying if it wasn't the Eagles beating the Patriots in the Super Bowl. There's just nothing that's ever gonna, pass that. People have always made jokes about Eagles fans about not winning a ring, even though we've had 3 in the past. But just the way people talked about it. So there's no way it's not that. But the 2 other close ones have to be UCF's undefeated season and Italy winning the World Cup in 2006. So those would be the top 3. You can kind of put them in whatever order you want, but those are definitely them.
The one thing I think we should briefly discuss about UCF, the Knights. What do you think about the fact that they should have been co-national champions?
Well, I mean, luckily that's not even something we have to discuss anymore because in the official NCAA record book, they are listed as co-champions. But the thing that people don't understand about that whole situation is, that all didn't happen just because of them going undefeated. It was the perfect storm of going undefeated, being the only team that was undefeated, and beating the only team to beat the two teams in the college football playoff final. I think that's what they call that. So, like, for example, had they went undefeated this year and beat LSU, that would not have been in the discussion. So I think people don't understand the thought that was put into that claim, and I see no reason not to count it. It is in the official books, but for the people that don't count it, I don't see how they can dispute it, really.
Just say one more thing before you talk about what you do and before, we have a few questions for you.
Sure.
I think it was a week before that game or sometime before that game, you posted on Facebook or something like that. It was a video of one of your players saying that, they don't have enough speed to beat us. And I was like, dude, you guys are going to get wrecked by Auburn. You guys don't stand a chance. Like, this is an SEC team against a non-Power 5 conference team, right? And I was like, damn. Like, that was, like, one of the first times that I really had to eat my words because that was, like, one of the biggest upsets in college football history.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that very vividly. It was Adrian Killings, our running back, number 9, saying, I don't think they're used to the speed that we have in the conference that they play in. And I definitely remember you doubting it, among other people. It's not just you. I'm not throwing shots at you. But
oh, yeah, no, I deserve it.
For people that don't know the team, I totally understand them not thinking that, UCF could pull it off. But it was just a special team, a special group of guys. And, you can never count them out. And, the LSU game was a one-possession game with a backup quarterback. So, am I trying to say that, UCF could go win the SEC? Maybe not necessarily. They're not going to go on an Alabama run. But I think it's pretty obvious that in every conference, the best teams in the non-Power 5, which I hate the term, it makes my skin crawl, but the top 2 or 3 teams in the non-Power 5 conferences could easily beat the bottom half of, the SEC, the ACC. So there's good and bad teams in every conference, and I think at the end of the day, that's what college football is all about.
Yeah, and if I may, real quick, Hank,
no worries.
just going to build off the UCF talk here. Why don't we talk about how they gave the Blue Devils everything they needed, man? I mean, that national championship or that NCAA Final Four run was amazing. I remember, friending you on Facebook just before that all happened, and you were propping up the UCF squad, and I didn't really see it, honestly. But you kept talking about the big man, I think he's from Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, Taco Fall. Yep, Mr.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Boy, that is a man amongst boys out there. Everybody thought Zion was a man amongst boys, but that guy right there, by just raw, talent or just, ability, he could have played in the NBA and scored a couple points. This guy is just a force of nature, and you never saw that throughout the NCAA up until this point, until they played Duke and they were on the national stage. And how did you feel about when all that was happening too? I think was that a little bit more than what the football team was doing for you?
I think football is always number one. I think, what they accomplish is always going to be a little bit above that. But to be honest, man, I was sweating through that whole thing because, I've always been a casual, Duke supporter. I love J.J. Redick in, the early 2000s. I started watching them. So, for the most part, I cheer for Duke. And when this went down, I'm like, all right, guys, just, keep it close, keep it respectable. And then they had this whole story about, wait till Zion dunks on Taco. And honestly, I feel like he spent the whole game trying to do that. And he never pulled it off. And I think that had a lot to do with that game being as close as it was. So that was just a great game. I think anyone that didn't care for either team, you watch that. I remember sitting there and I'm like, if that ball goes in, we have a Disney movie on our hands. That movie would get made within the next couple of years.
Yeah, no kidding, man. I mean, they did the same thing with The Blind Side. So
Right, exactly. And just to touch real quick on Taco Fall, that's a guy who, yes, obviously, just his size alone, why wouldn't he play basketball? Why wouldn't he try? I watched that guy, for 4 years. He went from, he was a liability his freshman year. He would just get rebounds. He'd score 8 points off dunks. He couldn't get up the floor. And in that 4-year period, we saw this just behemoth of a man turn into a basketball player, and a damn good one, and someone that will probably get drafted in the next few weeks here. But really just the entire journey of him becoming what he is was really great to see.
Yeah, that's one of those things about the NCAA tournament that it brings, like with these the Cinderella stories. They usually have some great stories behind them to bring them up to where they're at now. So yeah, I fell in love with them. I hoped that they would go, but there's always next year, right?
Yep,
Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Now, Phil, tell us about what you do on YouTube and your podcast, and I guess you could say your online footprint. I guess we all have that.
I think that's the way that's a good term. I think I'm but so yeah, long story short, I'm one of the all of us here on this show right now, we all love sports. That's why we're taking time out of our evening to talk about it and everything. And I'm one of the lucky few that actually work in the world of sports. I work for a minor league baseball team down here in Daytona Beach, the Daytona Tortugas. They're an affiliate of the Cincinnati Reds. I was a cameraman last year. This was my first year with them. This is my second season. I'm more just overall gameplay production these days, and or game day production, I should say. But everyone's kind of does, like this show, for example. We talk about whatever's going on in the world of sports. A lot of people do that, and a lot of people were doing that better than me, you guys included. So I kind of turned my show into, if I can get a hold of someone and sit down with someone that works in sports or has a unique story attached to sports, I like to sit down and just listen to their experiences and, stories that they have to tell. So it's kind of funny that I'm kind of being interviewed on this one. I'm used to being the one interviewing people. Hank, for example, was on mine talking about his online footprint, with YouTube and everything. And I basically, if you have a story to tell in the world of sports, I like to sit down and just hammer it out with you.
So the next question is going to be at Phil and everybody, okay? So just recently, the United States women's national team won 13-0 against Thailand. And now that's a pretty large score. That's a whooping, let's put it that way. And a lot of people are coming that's terrible. But a lot of people are coming to attack what they did in the celebrations of these goals. They were celebrating well into the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th goal. In what some would say excessive fashion. That's one's opinion. So if any of you guys have seen these celebrations, I have seen them not to be as, large as they're making this. It's not really that big of a deal to me because, listen, there are girls on this team that have never played in a World Cup. This is their first time. So I don't think you can really judge people on how they react to goals, especially on a national stage. I just wanted to get your guys' opinion. Phil.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and take this one. I don't know if this is for sure, but I might be like the biggest soccer fan in the room at the moment. So I just want to say that, I was watching this game. I saw the first 3 goals. I actually had one, brought back on an offsides call. But I think, there's 2 arguments here. Should they run up the score and how they react to it? I got to be honest, the celebrations late in the game, they didn't look that much. It's very commonplace for you to run up, kind of group hug everybody and get back at it. So, I think the bigger thing is, running it up, scoring in the 91st minute to get that 12th and 13th goal. I'll be honest, I don't really have a problem with it. We've seen it. I don't think you'd ever see a 13-0 scoreline in a World Cup in a men's game, but we've seen Germany beat people 6-0, and everyone loved it at the time. And I think that's probably the men's equivalent is 6-0.
Yeah, and here's another thing, Phil. A lot of people are also coming to the fact that why we even care about a 13-0 game is because it's a women's sport. So there's a little bit of gender stuff going on here. I'm not trying to, fuel any fires or anything about that.
I want to point something out.
DJ.
Yeah, exactly. No, I want to point something out, guys. I've listened to people say, "I can't believe the U.S. women's team ran up the score." Guys, they're playing off of a point system.
Exactly.
They're
That's
playing
right.
off of a point system. They need to score as many goals as possible. I could care less if they put 50 on them. They need to score as many. Listen, I understand. Oh, but the sport. I don't care. You're there to win the World Cup. You're not there to just lollygag and do nothing. Listen, they scored more points in one game than the entire. I think like an entire groups did last World Cup in the men's. Okay, and even last year's. All right, and the
Yeah, like when they're in the group stage, goal differential is everything. So now they can kick back. I mean, honestly, women just for the national team just scored more goals in 90 minutes than the U.S. men's national team has scored this calendar year, and that's just what it is. And if you're in the
I like that Facebook post, by the way.
yeah, I appreciate it. But yeah, it's a goal differential. Now they don't have to worry about it at all while they're in the group stage, and moving forward, nobody. If this was a friendly, which there's a lot of, and people go to those because you get to see players and international teams in your country that you wouldn't normally see. This is a friendly, totally different conversation. There's a reason it's called that. You'll sub everybody out. You'll play your 16-year-olds before you get to a 13-0 score. But for a World Cup game, I have zero problem with this, and I think people are overreacting to how the celebrations really go. They seem very commonplace to me.
All right, thanks again to the Two Birds and a Third podcast crew for having me on. It was a great time, and I hope you guys enjoyed that little extra content there. It seemed too good to pass up to re-upload here on this show. So other than that, that's going to do it for me. I want to thank you all for listening, and be sure to give me a follow on Twitter at Phil Talk Sports, and you can listen to past episodes on YouTube. Just search Phil Talk Sports Podcast. The entire playlist will come up for you. So thanks again for listening, guys, and I'll see you next time.